Hi, today we are going to talk about SAP HR, but since this is just an introduction, we are first going to see what SAP is all about, what other modules SAP provides, and also walk through the various modules of HR. So let's get started. The objectives of this demonstration would be the evolution of ERP solutions. We know that SAP is an ERP, so just trying to understand why ERP is used, its benefit, and other purposes. SAP has an R3 overview, so we need to understand what the R3 is all about. And as I already mentioned, we are going to have a brief understanding about SAP HR and also understand the market and the scope for SAP HR at present. On an ERP overview, we would cover ERP is nothing but a platform on which the various modules or the various aspects of an industry can map to. For example, an industry would have its manufacturing. Let's talk about something like an industry which provides or which produces some kind of a product. So it's going to have a manufacturing unit, it's going to have a sales and marketing unit, a finance, and then it's going to have its client who's going to purchase the products. That's going to pay the purchase. So depending upon the business, they have ERP maps on to the various modules. The business is a module, like manufacturing department would go into a module, and the finance would go into another SAP module. So that's how they are mapped. When we talk of an ERP application, it is basically an integrated suite for business applications. It kind of brings every kind of resources possible in an industry onto one platform. It's going to integrate very closely the machine, the materials, the purchase orders, the goods, everything together. And it also enables or incorporates various changes very easily. That is, suppose in a company, and they decide to start manufacturing a new product. So for the production of that product, new manufacturing resources are required, probably new materials are required for this. All it seems like a big change, a big new thing that has to be done, but when it comes to doing this on SAP provides the flexibility such that these changes can be done pretty easily. And now there are certain standards that SAP provides, but it is also open to a lot of changes or customizations that can be made by the people who are using it. I mean, because every industry is different and they have their custom requirements. So SAP on an ERP platform provides that kind of adaptability. When it does these changes, when we talk about the changes can be made very easily, we are talking about making some configuration changes. Now, when we talk of configuration changes under layman terms, it means that these are certain tweaks that we have to do in certain screens. It's not really required to do coding. When we say designing and customization is something that I just spoke of. That is when people have very specific requirements for very specific users, or which is specifically designed for a particular industry. After making a change, we obviously have to do testing before it is actually used by users. So testing and implementation is a big thing. And next is also training, because not everybody is used to the SAP tool, or not everybody will be used to the applications. So it is very essential that a proper training is provided before people start using the applications. Next, before we get into SAP, now we need to know what SAP is, or rather, who is SAP? SAP is Systems, Applications, and Products in Data Processing, and it was founded in Germany in 1972. You will understand once you start using it that it is more related to an enterprise, and where you have a big industry, people do not generally use SAP where it is more customer related. For example, in Amazon, people will not really use SAP where you are using a products which we are searching every day. At the end user side, they would not use SAP. They would probably go for Oracle and Java. But on the backend side, when they are maintaining a lot of data where security is a big thing, they would probably go for SAP. Now, we get to say that there are many people employed all over the world. Now, these data that you see here, the numbers like 38,400 people in more than 50 countries, probably the number is much greater today. Now, when I speak of R3, it means there are three layers. We call it the three-tier architecture. The first one is the presentation layer. That is what the end user sees. That is what a developer sees. That is what a functional consultant would see. That is our laptop or a monitor kind of thing is the presentation server. That is the software components that specialize in interacting with end users from the presentation layer. Next would be the application layer. When we talk of this, we mean that SAP is caters to certain specific needs, and these applications are these we would come across things like transactions, which provides the flexibility for an user to make a certain change or to make a certain configuration, or writing a code as well. All of it is in the application layer. Now, another part to it is the database layer, which holds the data. Now, when we say we are making a product, it means we are making a product with some components like X, Y, and Z. So this X, Y, and Z has to exist in the table at the SAP end to be fetched into a program or to do configuration with. So when we need that X, Y, and Z has to be in the table, that is the database layer. That's where it is stored. Now, this gives an overview of the various modules it caters to. We see on the left hand side, on the top hand side, the yellow ones is SD, sales and distribution, materials management, product planning. Then coming down on the yellow hand side is quality management, plant maintenance, HR. On the right hand side we see financial accounting, controlling, treasury, project system, workflow, and industry solutions. There are a couple of other modules as well, but this covers most of it. Now, when we say integration, in the last slide when we were talking about the various modules, it's not like the modules are absolutely independent of each other. On the other hand, they are very, very closely related. For example, when we plan a requirement, we decide that we are going to produce something, we are going to plan it. So the planning requirement would be as a part of PP, that is product planning. That would determine the MRP, the requirement component level, what all is required for it, what material is required, what purchase order, and that once we procure a material is going to lead to a purchase order that would form a goods receipt, an invoice verification, and of course accounts. The moment it comes to accounts and money, it becomes FI. So we see in this little step that I spoke of, we have already crossed 3 modules. So they are very closely related. And then you have, on the other hand, you see a planned order, a production order, and then a production completed, and then order settlement. So all of it comes under PP and CO. On the other hand, when they have a customer order and then shipping and invoicing, then again it comes to accounts, it becomes FI. So that covers SDFI. Now, MMPP, SD are very, very closely related. We could say that HR is one of the modules which is slightly segregated from them, because when we talk of MM, FI, PP, SD, all of this are things that the company is looking forward to. They are manufacturing it. People work in the company to meet the requirements of the manufacturing system, or they are the ones who are deciding on the product, or they are the ones who are generating an invoice or whatever it is. But HR is not for the customers of that company, but it is for the people who work in that company. It's for those people who are going to do that product planning. It is going to look after the working or the employees of that company. Now, when we say HR, it contains planning and attracting, developing and retaining the human resources of the organization. Now, HR on its own is something very difficult, because on today's date, people want to be in a company and they want to progress in that company. And if they do not meet their objectives, they want to do something in the near future, they have certain goals set out. If they do not meet it, they want to leave it and go ahead and go to some other company. So on the HR side, it's always their goal, the HR management's goal, to retain their strength, their employee strength, so that the attrition rate is less. Now, coming into the components of HR, when I say the components of HR, they are the sub-modules of the module of HR. So it's like HR is a module, and then we are talking about the modules which are under the module HR. So it's going to be really a sub-module. In HR, we would generally start with probably personal administration, personal development, recruitment, business trip management, payroll, organizational management, time management, workforce planning, training, and event management. The benefits, the compensation management, ESS, MSS, and GATS. Now, ESS, MSS, GATS, these are all to be done in the NetWeaver, that is in the Explorer. Now, we could say ESS, MSS, and GATS is the way to go. Rather, we have something called SuccessFactors, which also is mainly dealing with ESS, MSS. Now, they have personal administration and personal development. When we talk of personal administration, it means it deals with the personal details of the people, of the employees. When we talk of personal development, it talks about the development of the employees and how they can develop. That also is a part of the benefits. The recruitment is the recruitment drive of hiring a person. Business trip management is very closely related to logistics as well, because it's going to plan their trip and how they're going to go. It can be related to payroll as well. For example, a person is traveling from one country to another country for a certain period of time, which can call for a difference in the payment mode, because he might be earning in rupees, and when he shifts to the another country, he might be earning in some other currency. So that will also call for the integration with payroll module. Organization management determines an employee's org chart, determines where he is in the organization, whom he reports to, in which department he belongs, what his job roles are, which work center he belongs to, what is his cost center. When we say cost center, it again goes to the FI module. So we see how closely one module is linked to another module. In workforce planning, it is how many members are there in a particular department. For example, there are two departments, X and Y, and we see heavy workforce in X and less workforce in Y, whereas there's a lot of requirement in Y department, and it's like it needs a lot of resources. Recruitment is one option, but at the same time, if the work to be done in the department X is less, the organization can decide they're going to shift some people from department X to Y. Then that becomes a workforce planning. Training and event management is for the personal development. It helps in the development of the people because it's going to help you grow in your career. But training is something which so it's trying to learn something that you do not know. So a cross training is very important. Learning about new techniques is important. Learning about the processes of the company is important. Next comes the benefits. That is the benefit of the given to the employees because you're working with the company. That includes your medical benefits, your travel allowances, some other 401k and other stuff. Compensation management is we earn, so that's payroll, but we contribute significantly to the company. So we are supposed to get a promotion or you do get an increment in your salary, so that comes in your compensation management. And this module is very active during a particular window, that is it's annually in a year usually, because that's how people's compensation or rating or increment happens. So this is not something like a personal administration that it has to be there all the time of the year. ESS is employee self-service. Now all of the other modules can be integrated with that, where a person can go and log into the portal and can check his benefits, his compensation, can log into for a training, can check his salary, can check if his check has come in. MSS is manager self-service, where you can deal with the organizational management. And CATS is mainly used for time management, where you can book your time and how much you have spent on a particular task, or just to map in how much of time you're spending on a particular task. Now here we're going to talk about how the human resource process works. First, you get hired in the company, so I would kind of start with this place. You're hired. Now when we are hired, we just don't get the offer letter, we get a benefits enrollment brochure as well, which states what all benefits we are entitled to, and we have to enroll in it. Now before we, like, I had to do it, I'm not sure if everybody has to do it, but when they are onboarded in a company, they have to do a couple of trainings to get access to various kind of things, because they expect you to know a lot of things about the company, and only then you can use certain facilities. So you have to undergo a lot of training. Now this is not just the onboarding training. When it says training, it means any other training that you have to go to or undergo in your entire work cycle with that company. Travel is, suppose you're in state A and going to state B, you are entitled to a relocation allowance because you are moving. Now it's not only that, it also entitles to a business trip. Then your travel, your any kind of moving, I mean it's a flight or it's a car or it's a train, you are entitled to get some kind of travel allowance. Now since we are working and we can work in shift if it's required to, so that is like, and we are working 8 hours a day or 9 hours a day, that's all comes in time reporting and shift planning. Next is we get our salary, which today generally does not come in a check. It comes in as your deposit in your bank account statement. So you have to give in your account number and your corresponding details of the bank so that the company can deposit your salary into the account directly. So that is payroll. Employee development and salary administration, that is a part of some compensation management itself. So that again, that also includes the where you stand in the organization, whether you're getting a perk, so it shows money, it's like you're getting a perk and an increment. So if you're happy with it and you want to continue, you want to grow in the company, you stay. Else you want to quit maybe after some years or maybe 5-6 years, and then a position is created, there is a vacancy, and depending upon the requirement it's going to be hiring again. So that's how your life cycle works. But really, nobody wants you to leave the company once you join it. So when you join a company, suppose you are joining today in 2016, so your joining date, start date would be month slash date slash suppose 2016, and your end date would be 31/12/9999. That's the last possible number that SAP can take. So once you are onboarded, people really want you to be there as long as the company exists, and that's why the number is 31/12/9999. Now, coming to an SAP HR consultant, roles and responsibilities. When it comes to that, it talks about you could be everywhere in the system, or you could be in any one of the places of this entire system. It depends upon what your job role is, in which company you're in. Like if you are in a huge organization with large number of employees, then you would probably not be in all these departments but any one of them. You could be in the recruitment, you could be in the hiring, you could be in one of them. Now, coming from this is normal HR, but when I'm talking about SAP HR, you could be responsible for one of these modules, or you could be responsible for one or more of these modules where you might have to look after these modules as a whole. So that would include understanding the requirements, if there are some specific requirements from the company, from the client. If there are certain requirements where you have to understand that and convert it into an SAP type language. For example, a person says that I have to I have to do a college recruiting, and that should include they have some positions for 3-4 people, so they try to do a college recruiting, and that on the SAP side would be creating vacancies for entry level employees with minimum experience, or rather like they would say 16 plus 4 years or whatever years of education required, and the job role would be significantly different from the job role of a manager, and they should be tied to a particular work center or cost center, to a particular manager, and their salary would be probably a starting salary. So this is how the requirement is hiring fresh graduates, and converting into the SAP type language would be creating vacancies in the SAP system, assigning proper job roles to it, assigning a work center, a cost center significantly correctly, and whatever the other requirements are, like putting a minimum education, putting in certain experience, or whatever it calls for. So that is how I would say requirement gathering works. Then designing is understanding how you would go about converting the requirement into SAP type language, and what the solution would be. There would be probably more than one solutions. That is what is expected. And then when you analyze each solution, it would determine the pros and the cons of each solution, and then determine which of it is the best solution to go with. Having done that, you would then want to translate it to, if it requires some development or customizations to be done which is not existing in the SAP system, that has to be done by the development team. Or it could be, if you're an SAP consultant who knows both technical and functional, and you are supposed to do the coding, then you will do the coding as well. Then it would be testing, that is to test that the code works the way it is desired to be. Next would be checking the functional testing, that is to understand that it meets the requirements, that it works the way the requirements would want it to work. That is, you would try to do a mock hiring, not really go and hire people, but do the same thing in SAP, that is if a vacancy is there, put in somebody that is making a person XYZ and attach and say, okay, this person is selected. So block that vacancy, that is decrease a vacancy by 1. Having done that, assign the particular hired person to a significant position, give him certain job roles, and see if the entire process works the way it is designed to work. So that is what the functional requirements would be, or functional testing would be. Next would be to check that your new functionality is not breaking something else, something that is already existing. That would be your regression testing. Then would come the performance testing, that is to see if, like, not 4 people, but if like mass recruitment occurs, will the system be able to work properly? So, and then obviously on the other hand, there would be a lot of documentation to be done, a lot of presentations to be done, a lot of Excel work to be done. So this would be probably an administration kind of work, which comes not with SAP HR consultants, but with any kind of consultant. So these are the job roles and responsibilities. The next is what it would be: a client engagement. This just encompasses what I just said: maintain HR master data, analysis, design, construction, and implementation. This is a screenshot of PA20 and shows how to maintain an SAP HR data. Now, this is what I just spoke about, that is the system configuration and understanding a configuration and data maintenance and functional testing. Now, coming to some people who are using SAP, we see these are all big companies who are basically into product based manufacturing, like, you know, all the big names probably. So this is what the SAP customers, they are the ones who use SAP. But one thing is this, that not every company uses all the modules of SAP. You have to buy one particular module that you want to work on, and you might not take the other one. The other one could be in some other software, and SAP could use interface to work or to communicate with the other modules. So it depends solely upon what the requirement is like and what they think is the best software to use. I would say this is more than enough as a demonstration, and this gives an information on the course and what all is to be covered in the HR module: personal management, organization management, time management, payroll, employee compensation, recruiting, ESS, MSS, thing that we just spoke about. We are going to do configurations, query reports, and obviously if you have some questions, you can always get in touch with me. If you have any questions, let us know. Please let us know. We'll always be there to help you. Hope this demonstration was good enough and it would make you keen to learn more. Thank you.